Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi my dearest viewer students. I'm so glad that we meet again in the video today. How are you? I hope you are always healthy and always in a good condition. Primary 4 students, last week we had learned about the reading of historical fiction from Anne of Green Gables. How was that? Did you like the story? And we also have learned the verbs, the past tense, and the adverbs. We also have learned the structures of the text of historical fiction and also the language features of the text. This lesson we are going to continue the grammar of the text, which are clauses and commas.
My dearest paper students, now we come to new parts of grammar of the text, which are clauses and commas. Okay, what are clauses and commas? This material is actually a review of what you have learned in primary 4. You have learned about clauses and commas. Let's get it started. Okay, when it comes to clauses, we have to understand sentences first. What are sentences? Sentences are made of clauses, and sentences itself are a group of words that begins with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. And for sure, you have to know that all clauses have a verb. And actually, there are two types of clauses. The first one is a main clause. Let's take a look at the word of main. Main clause is a clause that can make sense on its own because it can stand by itself. For example, Anne and Diana enjoyed the day. Do you understand this clause? Yes. Does it make sense to you? Yes. And number 2, subordinate clause. It is a clause that must be added to a main clause. It cannot stand alone and it doesn't make sense on its own. Yeah, so it needs a main clause to be completed. For example, because they played in the meadow. Meadow is a piece of grassland. Okay, and my question is, do you understand this clause? Why? Why they played in the meadow? Or who played in the meadow? Okay, this clause doesn't make sense, right? And together, the main clause and the subordinate clause make sense. Yeah? For example, Anne and Diana enjoyed the day because they played in the meadow. Anne and Diana enjoyed the day is the main clause. Because they played in the meadow is the subordinate one. Okay, let's take a look at the next clause. Because her mom can't drive. Alright. Does this make sense to you? Do you understand what it means? It's not easy to understand, yeah, because it cannot stand alone. So we have to finish the clause. Okay, let's take a look at the complete one. Because her mom can't drive, my friend comes to school with us. Okay, so because her mom can't drive, here, is it a main clause or a subordinate clause? Does it make sense? No, if it doesn't make sense, it means it is a subordinate clause. And the next one, my friend comes to school with us. Do you understand this? Does it make sense to you? If it does, it means it is a main clause. Okay? Next. Okay, let's list down the differences between a main clause and subordinate one. For the main clause, it can stand on its own, or it makes sense. And then if we make a rank, it is more important than the subordinate clause. And how about the subordinate clause? It adds information to the main clause about why, how, or when, or where, okay? And it cannot stand on its own. And sorry, this one should be doesn't make sense. And compared to the main clause, the subordinate one is less important. Okay, let's try out this exercise. Which one is the main clause in these sentences? Okay, look at the first sentence. At the weekend, the children likes to play outside. Which one is the main clause? Is it at the weekends? Or the children likes to play outside? Yes, we have to look at the comma as a separation. Which one that makes sense? At the weekends, all the children like to play outside. Yes, the children like to play outside makes sense for us, so it is the main clause. And look at number 2. In the holidays, when the weather is sunny, the family like to go to the seaside. Which one that makes sense to you? Is it in the holidays? Is it when the weather is sunny? Or the family like to go to the seaside? Yes, correct. The family like to go to the seaside is a main clause here because it makes sense. Yeah. Why this one is more important? If we omit in the holidays and the weather is funny, the family likes to go to the seaside still can stand on its own. Okay, or independent. Okay, the next part of our material today is about commas. Why commas are important in clauses? Okay, you will know. And we have to know the definition itself. Commas are punctuation marks that are used to show a small pause in a sentence. And if a sentence has a main and a subordinate clause, it will need commas. But in which situation we need commas? Okay, we have to know the position of subordinate clause. I repeat, we have to know the position of the subordinate clause, the one that cannot stand alone, or the one that doesn't make sense. If the subordinate clause comes first or in the beginning or in the middle of a main clause, we need a comma or 2 commas. Let's take a look at the example to get it clearer. Look at the first sentence here. Although it was raining and went for a walk, I separate the 2 clauses with different color. Look at the first color, look at the first clause, and with orange color, although it was raining, is it main or subordinate clause? Does it make sense? No. So it is a subordinate clause. Yeah, subordinate clause, and then next a main clause, and went for a walk. Because the subordinate clause comes in the beginning of the sentence, so we need a comma after it here, yeah, after raining. Okay, don't forget the full stop in the end. Now, how about the subordinate clause in the middle of a main one? Look, the school comma had big windows. This is actually one clause, yeah? The school had big windows. Does it make sense to you? Yes, it does, yeah, and it is a main clause. And how about the orange one, which was painted white? Is it A subordinate clause or a main clause? Does it make sense to you? No. So the orange one here is the subordinate clause. Look, because the subordinate clause is placed in the middle of the main one, the school had big windows, we need two commas. The school comma, which was painted white comma, had big windows. Look at the activity time here. This is our last exercise in this video, yeah? Look for the main and subordinate clause in these sentences. Add in the commas where they are needed. But here I actually already give the answer, yeah? Number 1, as there were no pens, comma, children used chalk to write on their slates. Look, the words with black color, as there were no pens. Does it make sense to you? No, so it is the subordinate clause. And look at the position. Is it in the beginning of the sentence? Yes, so if a subordinate clause is placed in the beginning of the sentence, it is needed to have a comma after the subordinate clause. Yeah, and children use chalk to write on their slates. Okay, here is the main clause. Now, number 2, the children played with crickets in the classroom. Is it a main or subordinate clause? Does it make sense to you? The children played with crickets in the classroom. Yes, it does, right? So it is a main clause, and in the middle of it there is a subordinate clause, which is who were being naughty. Who were being naughty? The children, right? Not the crickets. Okay, so the subordinate clause here is placed in the middle of a main clause. So that's why we need a comma after the children, after the subject, and then after the subordinate clause itself. Yeah? I hope it's clear for you. To get it clearer, please play the next quizzes game. Yeah? And thank you guys for watching and learning this time. See you next time. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.